Good morning, Morai Rabotai, Bruchim Abayim. We are continuing on Masechet Makkot, and we are on Daf Tetvav, Amud Bet, 7 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. B'mai Kamiflegi. Today's Amud is being learned as a zchut for the Refuah Shelema of Rachel Simcha Bat Nahid. That should have full Refuah Shelema, Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. This month's learning of the community has been dedicated by the Dayan family, by Kohen family, by Shei families. That should be an ultimate zchut for all their families. Be'ezrat Hashem, Amen. Amen. Okay, so we started the discussion of Rabbi Yochanan's machloket with Resh Lakish. All started a quick encapsulation as Chazara of Rabbi Yochanan's psak that lav shkdamo ase lokin alav. That sometimes you could have a lav that you transgress and you still get the makot, you still get malkut, even though that there is an asay, a positive mitzvah associated with it as well. We gave the example of a person that comes to Mikdash when he is tameh. Then the Gemara explained that the reason for that perhaps is kiyemo ve'lo kiyemo versus bitelo and lo bitelo, which means when I do a avera in a lav hanitak la'aseh that we know you don't get lashes for, a lav that is given a fix with a mitzvat aseh following it. Don't steal. If you stole, return it. What exactly is the moment of time that I become chayav malkut? Is it the moment that I steal? I already have obligation of lashes upon me, or, and then of course I could fix it by returning it. That means the moment I steal, I already have obligation of malkut. But if I go and return the stolen object, then I take care of that. I remove, instead of getting lashes, I return. Like Rashi says, it's instead of getting punishment, I'm returning the stolen object that I took. Or maybe, when you steal, do a lav hanitak la'aseh, I don't have the obligation of lashes until I take away the possibility of fixing it. In other words, if I stole this object and I have it in my hand, in my possession, until I hold on to this, I still don't get chiyuv, obligation of malkut. But if I went and threw this in the sea, or I destroyed it, well, I now just took away the possibility of ever fixing the lav. Now is the moment that I get malkut. So the Gemara suggested that Rabbi Yochanan is of the opinion of bitelo velo bitelo. That means until the moment that I get rid of the possibility of fixing it, I still don't have chiyuv malkut. And Resh Lakish is the one that holds you immediately have chiyuv malkut on you until the moment that you go return it. Then you took away the obligation of getting lashes. Fine. This is what the Gemara said so far. Now the Gemara is going to hinge this machloket Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan on a different machloket that they have, which we know of in other sugyot in Shas, which the Gemara now is going to discuss here as well, and that is a Shas sugya of hatra'at safek. If I give, well, we know that you can't punish a person until you gave him hatra, warning. You can't give lashes just like that. Just like you can't give mitat bedin, can't give death penalty without proper warning, you can't give lashes without proper warning. What is considered proper warning? So that is machloket. If I warn someone on an item that is safek, I don't know who this person's father is, for instance, right? You don't know who's the father because the mother was married back to 2 people. Normally speaking, when a woman gets divorced, in the bill of divorce, you tell him you have to wait over 90 full days, so 92 days, whatever. You have to wait 3 full months before you get married because of hafchana. We want to make sure there's no cloud of ambiguity hanging over a child that will be born in 9 months, right? Is it 6 months from the second husband, a premature child from the second husband, or is the full term from the previous husband? If you have before DNA testing and so on, that would be a real question, right? So therefore, says the Gemara is going to discuss this. If you have a person that's about to hit his father, but we don't really know if it's his father, we'll say, don't hit him, because if you hit him, you get punished. Well, is that good enough of a hatra? Maybe it's his father, maybe it's not his father. That is hatrat safek, right? That's hatrat safek. Or if you tell him something, he says, I take an oath that I am going to eat this bread, right? So how are you going to give him hatra exactly? Well, eat it, because if you don't eat it, you're going to get lashes. Well, maybe he's going to eat it in 5 hours from now, in 5 minutes from now. You have no idea what he's going to decide to do afterwards. That is hatrat safek. Is that considered the proper hatra, or is that not considered proper hatra? Now, let's go back to what we just said and see if it works. Because we just got done saying that Rabbi Yochanan holds when you steal, right, and we're standing there giving you hatra, don't steal, because if you steal, you get punished. Imagine if it was not la vanita glaso, it is. So what exactly is the hatra'ah? If you tell me that the moment he steals, he already has lashes coming to him, unless he runs to return it, then my hatra'ah is a good hatra'ah. Don't steal. If you steal, we'll lash you. Because it is true. The moment you steal, we will lash you unless you run to return it. That's Resh Lakish. That makes a lot of sense. But according to Rabbi Yochanan, how in the world does this make sense? Don't steal, because if you steal, you get that. No, you don't. Not necessarily, because maybe I'm planning to return it afterwards. And until I ruin the possibility of returning this item, I don't get malkut. So when you're giving me warning, the warning is up in the air. It's not real. It's hatrat safik. So Rabbi Yochanan must hold that giving a hatra'ah, even though that it's not so clear if it's going to happen, in case it happens, is a good hatra'ah. That means if we catch the guy as he's about to steal, and we tell him, don't steal, because if you steal, you may get malkut, or you will get malkut. Even though that he could, technically speaking, return the object, if he ended up not returning the object. If he stole it and then he ate it, or he burnt it, he broke it, what happens? Good. It's a good hatra'ah, we give him lashes. Because hatra'at safek, as long as you gave him a proper hatra'ah, even though that you didn't know if it's going to actualize itself, still it's a good hatra'ah. And Resh Lakish says, no, hatra'at safek is not considered hatra'ah. When you give hatra'ah, it has to be airtight. So therefore, in the case of Gezelah, it works for Resh Lakish, because he holds when you steal, at that second you have the obligation of malkut, unless you run and return it. Otherwise, we could get you in the Beit Din and say, you either return it right now or we'll lash you. And we could do that. He can't say, well, I'm going to do it in 1 month. He can't do that. Because he has the chiyuv of malkut hovering over his head already. So according to Rabbi Yochanan, according to Resh Lakish rather, when the guy is about to steal and said, don't steal, because if you do, we will lash you, that's not hatrat safek. That's a good, gesund, hatrat vadai. Because he's going to get lashes. The moment he steals, he's going to have lashes coming to him. Right? So that's how the Gemara is going to hang and hinge the machloket Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish that we had on this worldwide machloket, hatra'at safek, shema hatra'a, or lav shema hatra'a. So let's read it together, 7 lines up from the bottom of the Amud. B'mai kam miflegi. This Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish, who Rabbi Yochanan says, bitelo velo bitelo, Resh Lakish says, kiyemo velo kiyemo, b'hatra'at safek kam miflegi. More savar. One of them holds hatra'at safek, Shema Hatra, that's Rabbi Yochanan, that even though that it's not 100% that the punishment is going to come to him, if you warned him and he ended up working out and fitting the narrative, he will get lashes, even though that the Hatra, at the moment that you gave the Hatra, was Safek. Because when he said don't steal because you get lashes if you steal, he didn't know if he's going to return the item. And yet, when he didn't return the item and he ate it, or he broke it, or he burnt it, he will get lashes with your hatra'ah, even though that was called hatra'at safek. Umor savar hatra'at safek lo shemeh hatra'ah. And Resh Lakish holds, if you give a hatra'at safek, that's not going to be a good hatra'ah, right? The prime example would be, if you gave hatra'ah to somebody, right, not to hit this person that is so-called his father, and he went and he hit him. That's hatra'at safek. According to Rabbi Yochanan, right, you're chayav. If he ends up hitting the other person also, the two husbands, the previous husband and the current husband, and he went and hit Mr. A first and Mr. B second, so then he gets it because hatrat safek. By Resh Lakish, hatrat safek lash matra, he doesn't get lashes. Because when you said it on each one of them, it was not a hatrat vada, it was hatrat safek on each one. Unless he hit both of them at the same time, right? Then you get malkut bimanafshach. However you slice it, you're going to get malkut. Because either his father is this one or that one. It's not more safek than that, so therefore he will get an actual punishment if he does it at the same time, which is going to be the example of the Gemara later on. So says the Gemara, Ve'azdu leta'amayu. Both of them, they follow their shita elsewhere, as we will see. The Itmar, we learned, if a person takes an oath, right? There's a Gemara in Pesachim Daf Samech Gimal. If a person says, I take a shvuah, I'm going to eat this loaf of bread. So says the Gemara, if the whole day passes and he didn't eat it, right? So then, Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish Damri Tarvayu, Eno Loke. Both Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish hold you don't get lashes. Why? For completely different reasons. Rabbi Yochanan says, Eno Loke, Mishum Deve, Lav She'em Bo Maaseh. You don't get lashes because this is a lav that does not have action involved with it. We learned in the onset of this perek that the halacha lemaaseh, the way we paskin, is like Rabbi Yochanan, that lav she'en bo maaseh, en lo kina lav. If you just sit by and do nothing, and thereby you transgress a don't do, right? Don't nullify your shvuah. And you just nullified your shvuah, but you nullified it. How do you nullify a shvuah? By doing nothing, in this case. You swore you got to do something, you didn't do it. And any transgression that involves no action, you don't get lashes on it, says Rabbi Yochanan. Therefore, when you swore that you're going to eat this loaf of bread and you sat by watching it the whole day, and you didn't eat it, and now became night, no lashes involved. You transgressed a lav, the oraita, but you don't get lashes. So says the Gemara, Resh Lakish Omer, Eno Loke. Resh Lakish also holds you don't get malkut, but for a completely different reason. Mishum deve hatrat safek, Resh Lakish says. Because when you told him, if you want to give him lashes, you have to give him hatra'ah. That means two people came and said, hey, Reuben, you took an oath to eat this. Eat it, because if you don't eat it, you're going to get lashes. Right? So that's hatra.
The Rish Lakish holds that it Shein Bo Maisi, you do get Makkot.
We'll get to it in a second.
Okay.
So says the Gemara, when the moment that they gave him hatra, Is he for sure going to get lashes? No, because maybe he decides in 5 hours to eat it, right? He's not feeling it right now, but maybe he's going to feel it in 5 hours. Yeah, who knows? Maybe he's going to eat it. So says Resh Lakish, you don't get lashes because the moment that they gave him hatra, that was hatra'at safek. Says the Gemara, v'chol hatra'at safek, lav shemeh hatra'ah. Any hatra'ah that is doubtful, is not for sure, it's not called hatra'ah. So therefore, yes, he passed the whole day and he didn't end up eating it, but he never got hatra'ah. He never got hatra'ah, therefore, you don't give him lashes. V'tarvayhu aliba de Rabbi Yehuda. Both of Resh Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, they are saying this based on something that Rabbi Yehuda said. Now this is very interesting because Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish right now, they are polar opposites. And they're both saying this based on something Rabbi Yehuda said. They're Tanya. We learned in the Braita. Ve'lo tetiru mimenu ad boker. Do not leave over from the korban until morning. Ve'hanotar mimenu ad boker. Ba'esh tisrofu. Right? Don't leave. This is talking about Korban Pesach. Don't leave from Korban Pesach until morning. If you did, you burn it. Right? So says Rabbi Yochanan. Ba'akatuv liten aseh. This is Rabbi Yehuda. Rather. Ba'akatuv liten aseh achar lo ta'aseh. The Torah is giving you a mitzvat aseh following a mitzvat lo ta'aseh. That means don't leave over. But if you did leave over, if you transgress the lo ta'aseh, ba'esh tisrofu, gives you a mitzvat aseh. To tell you, lomar shen lokin alav. Rabbi Yehuda says it's lav hanita klase, and you don't get lashes for lav hanita klase. Fine. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Yochanan daik, Rabbi Yochanan. Well, before we say the diuk of Rabbi Yochanan, so you have a Korban Pesach, right? The Torah says don't leave over from Korban Pesach until the morning, but if you did, burn it. And says Rabbi Yehuda, it's lav hadita klase. Hashem is giving you a mitzvah aseh afterwards to tell you you don't get lashes. But there are two other possible reasons why you should not get lashes. What are the two possible reasons? A, if I sit by there and don't eat Korban Pesach until the morning, what did I just do? Nothing. It's lav she'en bo maaseh. That's one possible reason that you should not get lashes. What's the second possible reason? Because if you want to give me lashes, you have to give me warning, hatra'ah. And how are you going to do that exactly? Eat it, because if you don't, you're going to get lashes. Chazak u'baruch, that's hatra'at. Safek, because you don't know, maybe in 2 hours I'm going to eat it before the morning, right? So there are three reasons why I wouldn't get lashes in this very example of Korban Pesach. Now, Rabbi Yehuda only said one, the one that's clear. Lav hanita klase en lokin alav. That's Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yochanan reads this and says, oh, this is awesome, because the reason that you don't get lashes is only because it is lav hanita klase. But guess what would have happened if the aseh wasn't there? You would get lashes, right? So says Rabbi Yochanan, listen to what he says. Rabbi Yochanan da'ikachi, tama de ba'akatuv. The reason you don't get lashes is because Hashem gave you a mitzvah aseh following it. Halo ba'akatuv, look here, if there was no mitzvah aseh following, you would get lashes. Alma, and you see from here, hatra'at safek, shema hatra'ah. That the fact that they gave him hatra'ah, they said don't eat it because otherwise you get lashes, is not a problem. You could give a hatra'ah like that. Well, if he ends up eating it, chazak baruch. But if he ends up deciding last moment not to eat it, still gets lashes, even though that at the moment that 5 hours ago I gave him hatra'ah, it was not clear what he's going to do. Hatra'at safek, says Rabbi Yochanan, shema hatra'ah, you see it from this psak of Rabbi Yehuda. Now, Resh Lakish is medayek from the first one. Resh Lakish ta'ikachi tama deba katuv. The reason you don't get Malkut is because the Torah gave you a mitzvah aseh following it. But lo ba'katuv, if the Torah would not give you a mitzvah aseh following it, okay, you would still get lashes. Alma, says Resh Lakish, you know what I see from here? Lav she'en bo ma'aseh lo kin alav. Your question, right? That a lav that doesn't have ma'aseh in it, you still will get lashes, because in Korban Pesach, if you had no aseh of ba'esh tisrofu, if the Torah would just say, don't leave over from Korban Pesach until the morning, period, Rabbi Yehuda says you would get lashes. Even though that leaving it until the morning, I have to do nothing. I literally have to do nothing, right? I sit by, not eating it, not doing anything, and I transgress the lav by just idly sitting by. Says Resh Lakish, you see from this Rabbi Yehuda, that on a lav that doesn't involve a maaseh, you get lashes. Now, the Gemara says both Rabbi Yochanan and Resh Lakish see their halacha from this Rabbi Yehuda. Now, what do we have to do? Well, if Rabbi Yehuda said this, and you as Resh Lakish, or you as Rabbi Yochanan are taking what he said seriously, you have to explain to me, why don't you take the other part of it seriously? Because as we mentioned a minute ago, there are three things in this. There is lav anitak lased, which is what Rabbi Yehuda says explicitly, but then there is hatrat safek, and there is lav she'en bo ma'aseh. You can't ignore that. So Rabbi Yochanan has to answer, why don't you see lav she'en bo ma'aseh from Rabbi Yehuda? Nichora, in regular common sense, it should be muchach, it should be provable from Rabbi Yehuda that lav she'en bo ma'aseh, also you get lashes from it. And Resh Lakish has to deal with the other part also. In other words, Resh Lakish, who says hatrat safek is not hatra, what does he do with Rabbi Yehuda? Over here, if you gave him hatra, eat your Korban Pesach, otherwise you get lashes. That's also hatrat safek. How does Resh Lakish deal with that? So however you slice it, they're in trouble here. Unless you prove to me from elsewhere that they each one have their own separate third source for why they hold what they hold. In other words, if you show me that Rabbi Yochanan from a different source knows that Hatra'at Safek is considered Hatra'ah, then you could tell me, well, that's not even a question over here. It's not a learnable moment from Rabbi Yehuda. And same with Resh Lakish by Lav She'en bo ma'aseh. And that's exactly what the Gemara is going to do. Says the Gemara, what does Rabbi Yochanan do with this? What does Resh Lakish do with that? And the Gemara goes through it. So says the Gemara, Resh Lakish, Nami havadai hatrat safeku. Wait a second, says the Gemara. According to Resh Lakish, this Rabbi Yehuda, the case of Korban Pesach, who he is taking so seriously, it's hatrat safek. At the end of the day, it's for sure hatrat safek. When you tell the guy, eat it, otherwise you get lashes, you have no idea if he's going to get lashes, because you have no idea if he's going to decide to eat it. So it's hatrat safek. So says the Gemara, Savarla ki idach tanad Rabbi Yehuda. He holds like the other Tana of Rabbi Yehuda. The Tanya, Hikazeh vechazar vehikazeh, kilel zeh vechazar vekilel zeh. There are two different lavim as far as kivud avayim and mora avayim. You cannot hit your parents, you cannot curse your parents, right? Vekalel aviv mot yumat, makeh aviv mot yumat. You can't do that. So if a person is about to hit or curse their parents, and someone gives them hatra'ah, so then that's hatra'ah. They get punishment, right? But what if you have the case that we mentioned before? A woman that was married to two men back to back, got a divorce, and the same day she got married, right? And now, 6 months later, she has a baby. We have no idea if this is a 9-month baby from husband number 1 or a 6-month baby from husband number 2, right? So what happens? So says the Gemara, we learned in the Braita that if this kid he hits the one of the fathers, one of the husbands, and then it goes and hits, later on goes and hits the second one, or curses them in that order, separately, one after the other, or, says the Braita, hikash shenehem bevat achat, or kilel shenehem bevat achat, or he hits them both at the same time, or curses them both at the same time, chayav. He's chayav. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, bebat achat chayav, beza achar ze patur. Rabbi Yehuda says no. Only if he does it at the same time, he is chayav. If he does it in chronological order, like one first and then the other one, then he's patur. Right? So from here you see what? The atrat safek, lav shebe'atra. So says Resh Lakish, what do you want from me? I'm learning a halacha from Rabbi Yehuda. I'm consistent. The same Rabbi Yehuda teaches me also that hatrat safek is not good. Because if you hit the two men back to back, when I gave you hatra on Reuben, I didn't know if it's your father. It's 50% chance, right? And Rabbi Yehuda holds that you don't get malkut in that case. Right? So I see Hatrat Safek is not considered Hatra from Rabbi Yehuda in a different place. So I'm consistent. And Rabbi Yochanan says the following: Rabbi Yochanan, Nami Havadai, Lav Shem Bo Maasehu. Rabbi Yochanan also has to deal with the fact that sitting by and not eating Korban Pesach is Lav Shem Bo Maaseh at the end of the day, right? So says the Gemara. In other words, where does he learn that from? Says the Gemara. Savar laki had Amar Rav Idi bar Avin Amar Rav Amram Amar Rabbi Yitzchak Amar Rabbi Yochanan. He holds like this chain of command in the name of Rabbi Yochanan himself that we learned. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, right? He holds also, I'm consistent with Rabbi Yehuda because Rabbi Yehuda says Mishum Rabbi Yossi HaGalili Kol lo ta'aseh shebatorah, as a general rule of thumb. Any love in the Torah, any don't do, any negative mitzvah, sheyesh bo maaseh lokin alav, lav she'en bo maaseh en lokin alav. If he has action, you do get lashes. If he doesn't involve any action, then you don't get malkut on it. Chutz min hanishba, there are three exceptions to the rule. One is when you swear, swearing, that means I swore I ate such and such. Right? I did it, I ate it. And then it turns out that you didn't. Right? So that person gets umemer, and a person that made a behema kochim, right? And there's a law. He says, lo yemirenu, you can't switch it with a different animal. If you said this is going to be, you can't switch it. And so if he switched it, then he brought a different animal instead of it, that also gets malkut. And a person that curses someone with the name of Hashem, right? Those three are the exceptions of a lav that doesn't have action, and you still get malkut. But short of that, any other lav that doesn't involve action does not get malkut. So now again, a beautiful daf that we had. But now we have clarity on the Shita of Rabbi Yochanan and Shita of Resh Lakish, and we explored two other subjects that are Shas subjects. But Zat Hashem will continue this in the days to come. Chazak u'Baruch.